Alright, so it's not going to be a typical flying video. I'm going to go ahead and review a new camera and talk a little bit about the cameras that I use to film these videos. A lot of you have asked in the comments about certain cameras and what I use. So my go-to camera has always been the Hero 3 and 3 Plus. These are great little cameras. I've got 3 of them, and I mount one on the left wing, one in the cockpit with an audio cable that goes into this port right here, so a USB port. And then I usually use the third one wherever on the plane with a small rig mount. Just mount this up, clip it on the tail, you can put it on the other wing, whatever. But one of the limitations is they don't do 4K very well. I think it's only 15 frames per second on 4K. I might be wrong, I may not do it at all. I've never used the 4K feature on these. So I'm basically just shooting in normal high def. And the jello effect you get from the rolling shutter is pretty bad with these at certain RPM ranges in the airplane. So much so that there's a lot of footage that I just don't use because of how shaky and that jello effect. So there's really no solution to this camera as far as fixing that. So I went ahead and upgraded to some Hero 7s. These have an onboard internal stabilization that is supposed to be as good as using a gimbal. So we'll see. Quite a leap from the Hero 3 to these 7s. The case, or the camera itself, is waterproof, so no more cases. That's great. It's got this really cool touchscreen menu that you can just go through and tap. It's super fast compared to the old menu system. It automatically orients the picture to be right side up, so if you want to shoot in an upside down mounted position, as long as it's off when you mount it, you turn the camera on, then it will shoot the picture in an upright position. If you turn it on right side up, then flip it and mount it, the image will show up correctly on the screen, but it will show up upside down on my computer. So that's something I've learned already. But anyway, I'm excited to go try these out. They do shoot 60 frames per second in 4K, which is outstanding, except it's in a new file format that doesn't work on my computer. So I will be using the 30 frames per second at 4K, which does work. And that should be plenty. I like 60 frames because I can slow it down then if I want to do slow-mo, but for general shooting, 30 frames will be fine. So I will mount the Hero 3 on the left wing, and then I will use a small rig mount with a Hero 7 on the right wing, and we'll go out and we'll compare the two. And then at the end of the video, I'll talk a little bit about that Osmo Plus camera that I use behind me that has the gimbal that allows the picture to stay still while the airplane's banking or pitching. So there's some learning curves with that camera and some accessories I've found that make it much more useful. So let's head on out to the airplane. I'll mount these up and we'll go for a flight. Alright, so we got the Hero 3 on the left wing and the Hero 7 on the right wing. Both synchronized and started. One of the things I can tell you right now that a lot of the times when I'm using the Wi-Fi on the iPad for the Hero 3, when you start recording, the preview goes away, which it has done, but the Hero 7 is still showing me what I'm recording. So that's nice. Alright, I don't know if there's a limit on the length of your clips, but the Hero 7 just stopped recording. I had to restart it again. What's going on with that? Alright, so if the image is anything like the preview on my phone, it's pretty badass. Coming up on 5 minutes on that clip. So you guys can see there's a pretty dramatic difference between the image quality of the Hero 7 on the right versus the Hero 3 on the left. And as we get on the short final here, pay attention to the shake on the left side on the Hero 3. That's the jello effect from the rolling shutter, and the same vibration is hitting both cameras. So the internal stabilization on the Hero 7 is fixing all that on board the camera. And so that's really what I was after when I purchased this camera, is to get a smooth video throughout the different range of RPM that you will encounter while flying. And it has definitely done the job. You can see it's just a much better image. So after that original test flight, I'm real happy with this camera. Some of the problems I was having with the Hero 7 shutting off in flight, I think, was due to the type of SD card I was using. I changed the SD card, and I haven't had that problem since. It's been pretty solid with the Wi-Fi connection until the battery starts to get weak. Just like the old cameras, when the battery's low, you have Wi-Fi connection problems. So by running a power line out the strut to the camera with the USB-C style plug, I will be able to lengthen the battery life of that camera like I have done with the Hero 3s. So the other thing I tried is running the Hero 7 in my tail mount, which I've had on the plane for years, but I've never been happy with it because the vibration back there creates really crappy video. And so with the Hero 3, it just wasn't very usable footage unless I was almost at idle. So like on descent to land, it worked, but if I brought in any power, as soon as I brought the power in, it would create that jello effect and it would ruin the footage. So here it is with the 7 on the tail. It's rock solid, really nice footage, and so you'll see a lot more of this viewpoint in the videos going forward. Alright, let's talk more about the Osmo Plus camera, which you can see the footage from here. It's mounted behind my seat using a small rig mount and the remote head for the Osmo control, which I will show how that's set up here. It provides a really unique perspective in that it keeps the picture fixed to the horizon, and when you pitch or you roll the aircraft, the camera stays level. So it really shows what you're doing with the aircraft as you fly it. It's a pretty unique angle. Okay, so here is the Osmo Plus camera, and these things have great potential. They do shoot in 4K, and it is a stabilized gimbal picture, but there are some limitations to them. The main thing is the battery. So this is the battery. It lasts about, I'd say on average, about 30 minutes of shooting time, which is just ridiculous. I mean, you can't get a very good day's worth of footage of flying in 30 minutes. I mean, you have to be very selective about what you're recording, and if you're in standby mode not recording, it burns these batteries down pretty quick. And so you get it on takeoff, you're en route, and by the time you're ready to land, the battery's dead. So you could buy a bunch of these, but you'd be, they're expensive, and you'd be changing them out all the time. So the solution I found to this, and I highly recommend it, I'll provide some links if I can find them, is this guy. So this looks just like the battery, but it has a cable that runs down to a Mavic Pro DJI drone battery. So this is it's actually a Platinum Pro, but it's the same thing, Mavic drone battery, and it plugs in here like this, and then you turn the battery on with 2 clicks, get the lights on, and now that's providing battery source through this guy, which slides into the camera just like the battery does, and it comes with this extra door that has a little slot in it that allows the cable to pass through. So with this setup, I now have 3.5 hours worth of battery in this with this setup. So I can turn it on, it'll stabilize, good to go. And I'll also show a clip from another previous video, because I don't have the cable with me today, but the other thing I do is I do the remote head cable. So basically, let me turn it off here, because you don't want to hold this while you're flying, and there's no provisions for a tripod mount, so you can't mount this whole apparatus. You can, however, take the top part off the camera, and there's a cable that then connects into that head and then onto the base of this that does have a tripod mount on it. And that's what I put behind me in the airplane. And so I can still have this on the seat, see the video through my phone, and control the gimbal left, right, up and down, start and stop, all that stuff through the control handle, and have the camera behind me. It's also great for doing, this camera does amazing time lapse. You can set a start position, a pan and tilt during the time lapse, which is really awesome. But again, because you don't have the ability to mount this on a tripod, it makes it really difficult to do a time lapse because you can't hold the camera. So using that remote head and mounting it on a tripod is the solution there. I've got some good results with that. There's still, I think, a lot to learn about how to do a good time lapse using this camera, but it's a fun thing to mess with. But outside of the airplane and using that remote head, I also got this little Osmo base. And all this is a weighted piece of plastic that the handle can clip into. And then you can set that down, and it's good for doing this type of stuff, you know, vlogging videos and what have you. I also have a remote or a external microphone that I plug into the port here. I'm actually using it on my Nikon camera that I'm filming with right now, so I can't show you that. But those are the accessories that make the Osmo Plus much more usable. That remote battery is a must-have for, I think, just using the camera in general. And if you don't have a Mavic Pro, you should have one. And if you don't want one, you can go out and get the battery and a charger, and it would be a lot more economical than buying a bunch of these that only last 30 minutes. I was just talking about the remote mount for the Osmo Plus. So this is the cable head attachment, and it runs back up here. Again, another small rig mount is attached to the bar back here, and then here's the head for the gimbal. So if I turn that on, and again, I'm using the Mavic Pro battery to extend the life of this one. I can turn on, there it goes, it initializes. And you can use the control head up front to tilt it, pan it, whatever you want to do, to set your camera, and then you can have it, you know, Wi-Fi to your phone so you can see the image you're getting. And that's the one that keeps the steady view while the plane's turning. So really neat camera, and with this remote attachment with the remote wire, remote head, it works really well. Hey guys, so you can see outside today. We're low visibility, not going to be doing any flying, so I figure it's a good day to go ahead and show you a little bit about how I set up the cameras on the airplane, since a lot of you have been asking. And while I'm here, I'll also talk a little bit about how the airplane's set up. Lots of questions about my particular Kitfox. So we'll cover those things here real quick. So for starters, I was just talking in the office about the Hero 7s, how I've gone to those. This is a Hero 7 on a small rig mounted to my wing strut, just at the round part at the top with a small rig setup. And this does real well. It's a really good camera. I'll show some footage from it compared to the Hero 3s. I think it's a pretty good upgrade. However, over on the left wing, still running the Hero 3, and that's because I have this cable that I have run all the way up the wing strut and into the camera. And the new Hero 7s use a different end. So this is your old style USB plug-in, and that is a different, it's a USB-C on the new Hero 7. So this cable won't work. But what that cable allows me to do, and this is on a ram mount handlebar for like a motorcycle handlebar mount with the ball, and then the ram, again, you can loosen it up, move it around, aim it anywhere you want. But that cable runs all the way down the wing, kind of crudely into the cockpit right now because I don't want to put a hole in the fabric. But I bring that over to a portable battery and plug that in, and that allows me to run the Wi-Fi on that Hero 3 all day long and never run out of battery power. So I always run out of SD storage on that camera before battery power. So that works great. And then there's one more camera I'll show you that everyone thinks is a new view. Duck under the wing here. I've tried it in the past, but with the Hero 3s, the gel effect, it just didn't work. And that was on top of the tail. So you can see up here on top of the tail, I just have a helmet sticky mount up there. And with the Hero 7, with the stabilization on board, it does a fantastic job of taking out the shake. So since I started putting the Hero 7 up there, I found that the image is really usable. So it's one of my favorite views actually from back here. You can see a real good perspective. Okay guys, so this is a Kitfox Model 5. It is the SkyStar Kitfox. It was the previous company, and it is the Safari Edition with the Speedster wing, which means it is the short wing. The wing comes to right here, and it had an option to do a wing extension, which goes to there. And you can actually see it doesn't mate up perfectly with the wingtip, but anyway, the wing extension piece there I made about 5 years after flying it with the short wing. Put it on, and I've never taken it off since because I like the advantages of the longer wing. If you're into more sporty aerobatic, not really aerobatic, but sporty flying, the short wing is really fun because it rolls a lot faster. So if you want to go out and do canyon runs and what have you, you pull those extensions off, the roll rate's much quicker. I do have the speed fairing on the wing struts. That picked up about 3 to 4 miles per hour. I would say that's probably the best speed mod you can do. I am running a Lycoming 0290. It's a 4-cylinder, 130 horsepower engine. It is the Lycoming 0290D, or Dash 11 is the military version. It came off of a Piper, I think it was a Super Cub military version, L21. And it was a 1966 engine that was 0-time overhauled before putting on this. So it now has matching times with the airframe, about 400 hours. I had one cylinder that I took off last year and had it overhauled as a precaution just because the compression had dropped a little bit on it. I didn't like it, so I pulled it and had it overhauled. Cost me a total of $650. So in 12 years of having this engine, the only thing I've had to do to it is a front main seal replacement, which was $50, and then replacing a cylinder or having a cylinder overhauled. Empty weight with the tires and everything I'm running in it right now, it is about 938 pounds. So, you compare that to the new STI with a heavier wing and the 915 set up there, up in the 9 with the constant speed prop 950 range. So it's not light, but it's also not real overly heavy. I think 1,000-pound Kitfox would be too heavy. But with the extra horsepower, I think it's a good trade-off, especially at sea level. The thing performs great. When you get up into higher density altitudes, then the weight is a penalty. So I'm running a Whirlwind propeller and spinner. That is a real carbon fiber spinner. It's a 72-inch propeller. Probably if I had it to do it again, I would go with 76 or 78. I was worried about ground clearance. We'll be doing the gear upgrade here. I'll talk about that in another video. That will give me more ground height. I'm running 26-inch Alaska Bushwheel Airstreak tires, and I recently upgraded to the Grove double piston brakes, which for those of you that have the older kits, they do not work with the Cleveland wheels if you were to order them from Kitfox. The thickness of the disc here is thicker on a Cleveland than it is on a Grove wheel. So you have to measure that and order a specific caliper setup that will be compatible with the Cleveland. As you've seen in the previous video, I do have the VG kit installed on the wing and also on the horizontal on the underneath side. I'm running the T3 tail wheel setup with the shock, and that is a Matco double arm tail wheel assembly. You can see this little battery compartment here. You probably don't see those on a lot of the Kitfoxes. That's because the battery is in the tail, and that's to offset the weight of the engine. The other neat feature that I have is the folding turtle deck. Okay, so if I just undo these three little Zeus fastener style screws, then this entire back piece is hinged and it comes up and opens up so that you can put something the size of the baggage compartment in the baggage compartment. It is something I use on all my longer trips. It's awesome. And Kitfox actually has one now that's all plexi. So you don't have to have all this aluminum that blocks some of the view. So the whole thing is plexiglass. So it's something you'd want to ask John about. I don't know that it's on their in their parts list yet, but it is it's just a great addition to get into the baggage compartment. Okay, I have a fairly basic VFR panel. So, you know, I've got altimeter, vertical speed, airspeed indicator, turn and bank, which doesn't work very well. You guys have all made fun of in the video so much that I've disconnected at this point. RPM, and then this is a all-cylinder G3 Insight engine monitor, which is great. Gives you CHT and EGT for each cylinder. And then I've got a Garmin 396, a Bendix King transponder, and then the Garmin radio. I think it's a GTR 200. I'll have to look up the model on it. Great radio. You can hit the monitor button right here, and it monitors both frequencies. So it's basically like having two radios. It's fantastic. And then over here I've got my engine instruments, you know, with oil, temperature. I've got oil pressure. This is a fuel flow gauge, which tells me flow, how much I've used, how much I have remaining, and then endurance. It's a Flight Data Systems FC10. It's a great gauge and probably one of the best things you can have on board as far as safety. More people run out of fuel, and that causes the crashes than probably anything else. I'm making that up, but it is definitely a factor. Fuel pressure, I do have a fuel pump that I use to prime, and then voltmeter and ammeter. Then I have an iPad, sorry about this glare. I've got an iPad mount for my iPad mini that's on a RAM mount back there. And right behind that, so you can't see it, is a low fuel warning light. All right, guys, well, thanks for watching. You know, bad weather out. I figured we'd take care of some of the questions that you've been asking over the past year or so about camera setup and about the airplane. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. Hopefully you got something out of it. If you have any more questions that are specific to the airplane or the camera setup, just throw them in the comment section of this video and I'll answer them so everybody can see the response. I love the plane. I've had it for 12 years. It is a complete joy. Couldn't say more about how happy I have been as an airplane owner. I know I've been kind of dodgy about the Apex build and the details going on there. There's some stuff coming up real shortly that I need to get all in place before I want to really put out there what the plan is, because I don't want to jinx anything. So stay tuned. Within the next couple weeks, I'll be making very clear, very transparent about what I'm going to be doing. I think you guys will enjoy the process and what I'm going to do. So I appreciate all the comments and suggestions about the Apex build, and I agree with almost all the comments. Tearing this airplane apart is just something I can't bring myself to do. So if you want a hint, the Apex will not be going in this airplane. There will be some upgrades going on with this airplane though. And actually the very next video I will post will be about some upgrades in this general vicinity right in here. So gonna keep working on this one, but the Apex will be going into a different airplane. So stay tuned for that news. Hit the subscribe button if you want to find out. Hit the bell if you want to know when a new video is posted, and like the video if you do. And thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully this wasn't too boring.